Hello, world. Welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. Hello, world, and welcome to the Shannon Joy Show. We're broadcasting live from the Joy Virtual Studio right here in the beautiful Finger Lakes region of New York State. It is so great to be with all of you today. Welcome to the week. It is Monday, March 30th, and we have a big show for you today. You see the headline: Tucker Carlson rolling out new COVID fear porn on his website, Tucker Carlson News. What's that all about? Boots on the ground in Iran, massive deployment into Iran as President Trump accelerates the hostilities. This is an incredibly unpopular war, but now we're in it. We're going to report on that. Also, medical freedom stalled in Washington, D.C. as the ACIP committee disbands. Robert Malone exits the committee and essentially accuses certain operatives in Washington, D.C. of outright sabotage against the medical freedom movement and MAHA. It's a mess, an absolute mess. And now we're seeing MAHA in the mass exodus out of Trump support, along with MAGA. People are not happy with this president, with the economy, with the war, with the broken promises, the refusal to address the Epstein documents and the Epstein scandals. It's all just imploding. And this is why new polling is out today showing President Trump's approval rating plummeting in every category. The Mad King with a plummeting approval rate, but seemingly completely tone deaf to the will of the American people. Frustrations are growing. So we're going to get to all of those stories and more. Of course, Dr. Peter McCullough is going to be joining us at 1 p.m. Eastern time. So at the top of the hour, we're going to have a full 30 minutes with Dr. Peter McCullough, one of the last voices of sanity when it comes to medical freedom and the truth about what is going on within the medical industrial complex as we now move to over a year of a Trump administration and Bobby Kennedy Jr. at HHS and absolutely no movement when it comes to justice for those who were crushed by the lockdowns of 2020 and the rollout of the COVID shots. In fact, this is what Peter McCullough had to say just a couple days ago. Each and every person that ever encouraged, pressured, coerced, or threatened reprisal for one of these COVID-19 vaccines is complicit in a crime against humanity, and that crime is mass negligent homicide. That is a quote from Dr. Peter McCullough. Earlier in the week, we are going to have him at the top of the hour live here on the SJ Show to talk about the state of medical freedom in the U.S., but also ivermectin. I'm seeing more and more in the way of ivermectin really being a miracle drug. I even have my own personal story to tell you guys about how well the ivermectin cream has worked for me. Unbelievable. I mean, it's a miracle. And this is the first time I've really used ivermectin in a meaningful way. So many mechanisms of healing for so many types of diseases and ailments. We're going to talk to Dr. Peter McCullough about that as well. So there will be some good news at the top of the hour. We are broadcasting live, of course, from the Joy Virtual Studio. Thank you to Inez Annie Cyrus, who is producing the Shannon Joy Show today and keeping an eye on all of our live streams. We're live on Rumble, live on Twitter. We are live on Spreely TV, Roku TV, of course, Substack, Facebook, and so many other platforms. Annie is keeping an eye on those platforms. If you're on Substack or Twitter and you want to make a comment or a question, pop it up there in the stream, and Annie will keep an eye out for it and read them to me so I can say hello to all of you. But I want to first say hello to everyone in the Rumble audience, the kindest, smartest, feistiest live chatters of any of my platforms are right here on Rumble. Budzon is with us on the live chat, the very first chatter of the day, and a new profile. I haven't seen you yet on the live chat, Budzon. So welcome to the live chat. Mrs. Lovely is with us today. Edgar 615, great to see you. HBard 36 is with us. What are fuel prices in Ohio? JCH 55, we're paying $4.99 in northern Montana. It is a nightmare. I saw a report earlier today. Some experts are predicting if hostilities continue in the Middle East in terms of the war with Iran and the closure of the Strait of Hormuz, we could see oil prices topping out over $200 a barrel. This is why so many people are warning about energy shocks, energy lockdowns, and shutdowns across the globe, because they are locking up our energy sources. And of course, it's on purpose, right? A different new kind of lockdown, just 6 years after Donald Trump locked us down in the first place under the guise of a pandemic. Well, now under the guise of a war, World War III, and the war with Iran, it's now being used to justify skyrocketing energy prices, the crushing of Americans and the American dream, and what appears to be new lockdown efforts. In fact, I saw a report from New York City, of all places. They are actually considering putting in darkening rules, basically saying that between the hours of like 9 p.m. or 10 p.m. and 6 a.m. the next morning, the entire city goes dark. All electronics shut off, lights turned off. Like, how insane is that? But we're seeing this. Australia, across the UK, all kinds of chatter about locking down. I told you this would happen. This is why I said you don't put the guy who locked you down in the first place into power again, because he'll lock you down again, only this time under different pretenses. But the result is all the same. Pain to the American people, the little guy, as they continue to crush our liberties. Absolutely terrible and highly unpopular, by the way. So yes, HBard 36, fuel prices are going to be leading headlines in the next 6 to 12 months. Again, this is likely why President Trump's poll numbers are absolutely plummeting from interactive polls. This is a national poll conducted by UMass and Amherst. President Trump's approval rating has now plummeted to 33%. 62% of Americans disapprove of his handling of United States affairs. We're going to get in a little deeper into that as well. It's probably why also 8 million, that's with an M, 8 million Americans turned out on Saturday for a No Kings rally. It spread across the United States of America and is now pouring out and going international as worldwide revolts against Trump and his erratic presidency, his warmongering. No one wants it. No one wants it. So we have a report on the No Kings rally as well. OMG, AOC, never in a million years would I have thought that on this day, March 30th, 2026, that I would agree with AOC. This just goes to show you how in the air the checkers are right now, how everything has been tossed. Up is down, right is left, the grass is blue, the sky is green, and I agree with AOC. Why? I'll let you know a little bit later in the program. She took to the floor of the House of Representatives and made statements that had me applauding. And this just goes, it's further evidence of what I'm going to start coining the joy doctrine, right? This is something that I have been telling my audience for the past 10 years. The two political parties, for all intents and purposes, are in on it. They're on the same team. But every once in a while, from the right and the left, you're going to align on principles. And from my perspective, rather than supporting or not supporting a candidate or agreeing or not agreeing with a candidate based on their political affiliation, you should tether your support to principles. And so if we begin to do that and call out politicians when they violate principles of freedom, liberty, our Constitution, our Declaration of Independence, common sense, common ethics, common morality, and biblical law and biblical truth, well, then I don't care what their political affiliation is. If they're in a truth space, I will be aligned with them, and vice versa, right? When AOC wasn't in a truth space because she was carrying water for the Biden administration, I opposed her. We need to do this with both political parties, and we need to do this for the next 20 years. We have to emancipate from the two-party political system and then begin to organize together along principles and the ideas of principles. And I've been to a No Kings rally. And I will tell you, yeah, the crazies are out there, the pink hairs and the liberals and people who would love to see me put in a jail cell for not wearing a mask during 2020. I understand that those are the types of people who typically populate those No Kings rallies. But I will tell you, the vast majority of the people out there, when I was out there checking it out, loved the Constitution, loved freedom. They were waving American flags. And they were rightfully critiquing Donald Trump for completely violating his oath of office and upholding the Constitution, and unconstitutionally expanding the role of the executive branch to the point of a dictatorship, which is kind of what we're in right now. When you think about the actions of this president, pumping and dumping, insider trading, funneling $1 billion, $4 billion into his family coffers, handing lucrative government contracts out to insiders and cronies, people who donate to his political campaigns, waging a war unconstitutionally, and deploying our men and women, our boys and girls, our troops into a quagmire war in Iran without the approval of Congress, which is necessary for war making in this country. He's doing whatever he wants. He is acting like a dictator. And in that sense, I agree with the people at the No Kings rallies, the vast majority of them, even while I understand that in a different context, for example, if Joe Biden were doing these things, they would have nothing to say. They would be complete hypocrites, right? But to that point, when Biden was locking us down and rolling out shots and trying to force shots and censoring all of us, and we were protesting, we were rolling out in the streets protesting the actions of the Biden administration. Well, those same people that I protested with, that I rallied with for 4 years, are now getting behind a president who's doing the exact same thing. So they're just as hypocritical as the Democrats. And that's what we need to stop doing here in the US. We need to stop being hypocrites and align on principle and call out our own parties. And so on this day, March 30th, 2026, I agree with AOC, and I'll let you know why in just a bit. But let's go back to the live chat. Edgar615 says, fuel prices are $4.99 in Pennsylvania. I know, just wait, they're going to go higher. CJP Rumble, great to see you on the live chat. Resterly, great to see you on the live chat on Rumble. Appreciate you. Brand new profile. Welcome to the chat. Oh, I see you, Arthur, on Substack. Great to see all of the Substack audience building. Arthur says this, number 47, Donald Trump, was reselected by the TEPTB, the evil predators that be, that's so funny, who control governments, politics, and selections all over the globe from outside of government, to do exactly what he's being told to do. And I love how you set that up, Arthur. Rather than calling them elections, he calls them selections. I think many people understand, especially at the federal level, that the people in positions of power, particularly high office like the presidency, don't get there unless they sell their soul to the devil. They make their deals. So Donald Trump is doing what his puppet masters are telling him to do. And I guess that means morphing into a dictator. Very troubling times. LT Oracle of Truth. Shannon, I heard you made a funny on the Twitter over the weekend. A robot, a tranny, and a prostitute walk into a bar. That one is probably up over 2 million views at this point. Yes, LT Oracle of Truth, that one cut through for some reason. We were mocking the press conference hosted by Melania Trump and Brigitte Macron and George Jetson's maid, Rosie, the robot, right? The humanoid, they called it. Basically paving the way for robot teachers to come in and take the children and teach the children and all the things. It was absurd. It was an absurdity. I call her Melanie and Bridget because their names do not warrant the fanciness. It's just insane. But it is another act of propaganda, giving the illusion that we're going to lose all of our jobs to the robots, even teachers, that AI is going to take over everything and become sentient and all powerful, all knowing like a god, and that humans are going to be relegated to like fourth class citizens and not even necessary anymore. It's all a big psyop. They are desperately trying to keep the AI tech bubble inflated. It's all hype. There's no there. In fact, the only robot company that was ever even marginally successful over the past 20 years was the Roomba. Remember that? The little vacuum that rolled around your living room and bumped into furniture and, vacuumed up all the nasty stuff. Well, Roomba just went out of business, right? So even the most baseline, robot that was marginally successful wasn't actually able to accomplish anything. And people think we're going to have humanoid robots walking around our apartments, cooking us eggs for breakfast. Come on. It is a fake. It is a farce. And what they're trying to do is to keep this illusion going so that they can get their AI data centers built, because AI and tech is about nothing more than surveillance of humans. That's it. Gathering up all of our information, geo-tracking us, controlling us, moving us into 15-minute cities, and instituting the 21st century AI-driven technocracy, techno-fascism. There will be no benefit to humans. Our children will not benefit from robots. And this is why I agree with AOC, by the way. Great lead-in, LT Oracle of Truth. Because AOC is now mirroring what we have been talking about, Aaron Day and Patrick Wood and myself, regarding the technocracy, Whitney Webb as well. This was last week. AOC on the floor of the House. This is what she had to say. Companies like Palantir are mining the data and privacy of the American people, keeping track of everything they say and do, and sending it to a militarized government. That was AOC on the floor of the House of Representatives. She went on. Palantir was founded with CIA seed funding. Yes, she's right about that. It now holds contracts with ICE, the Pentagon, the NSA, and dozens of federal agencies. Its software, said AOC, is used to track immigrants, analyze social media, predict crime, and identify targets. The same government that deployed ICE to the airports, threatened Americans with consequences for their speech, used Signal to auto-delete official records, is reading Tucker Carlson's texts, sealed the Epstein files, and hid wounded soldiers from their families. That same government has a private tracking company watching everything you say and do, and that company is Palantir, said AOC. 8 million Americans marched yesterday, and that was the No Kings rally. And Palantir now knows who was there because they're geofencing, geo-tracking. And I agree with that. That's what they did. Palantir was the company who scooped up all of the information on the J6 protesters when they traveled to Capitol Hill to protest the elections, what they thought was the stealing of the elections in the 2020 presidential election. And those J6 prisoners were tortured and tormented, those who were scooped up in that dragnet. That was all Palantir, baby. And Palantir is getting some of the biggest contracts from this government, President Trump. OMG, AOC, I agree with you. I never thought, never in my almost 50 years of being on this planet. By the way, I was a card-carrying Republican for 35 years. I mean, I've been a conservative, Christian, constitutionalist, liberty activator my entire life. Never would I have thought I would agree with AOC, but this just goes to show you how we need to be very nimble and we need to align with people who are in a truth space. Believe me, I'll be disagreeing with AOC very soon, especially if a Democrat gets into office, right? Because she will fall right back in to her preconditioned messaging, right? Because I don't believe that I don't even know if she's necessarily sincere about this, but what they're doing is they're mirroring what the population is doing, what the market is saying. And the market is saying, we don't like AI, we don't like the tech, we don't want data centers in our backyard, we're pissed off about this economy, we don't want our men and women sent to war in Trump's war machine to shed their blood, while our ruling class never has to lift a finger, nor their children or grandchildren will ever be deployed or put in harm's way as they continue to abuse the people of the United States of America. So what you're seeing now are Democrats and Republicans who are seeing the market move, try to go in and capture those markets. And that's what AOC is trying to do here. I don't trust her as far as I can throw her. I'm just saying, this is good. And we can align with people when they're in a truth space. And that, I think, is the Joy Doctrine. At least that's what I do on my show. I do not care what your political affiliation is. If you want the Epstein files removed, if you want to end this war in Iran, if you want to cut this government spending and go down a fiscal path of responsibility, all of those things, and that's what you're saying out loud with your words, I'm going to align with you. Crazy. Let's go back to the live chat. Hey, on X, Germs, great show. Interesting information. Well, thank you, Germax. Appreciate you. Melanie on Substack says, wants AOC to F off. I'm not going to read the word. Okay, tell me how you really think about AOC. I see you, Guitar Lily, on the live chat. Ollie Robin 9, great to see you on the live chat on Rumble as well. We have Ralph the Flying Dutchman. Oh, they're coming, those stable coins. Zen Woman is with us on the live chat. Oh, Guitar Lily, new t-shirt. The SJ Show, the last voice of sanity. Well, that's what we're trying to do here, right? Is stay sane. Because they're gaslighting the hell out of us. All of them. All of them. Including Tucker Carlson. When we come back, we are going to look, speaking of pivoting with the messaging, I saw one of you on the live chat mention that the COVID fear porn is rolling out again across the country. And none other than Tucker Carlson on his website, TCN, it's tuckercarlson.com, but it's the Tucker Carlson Network. This headline, new COVID variant spreads across America. A new COVID variant that may be able to evade protection from current vaccines is spreading across America. This is on Tucker Carlson's website. I was alerted to this by Dr. Mary Talley Bowden last night because she saw it on his website and was like, what the hell is this? And I had the same reaction. We're going to get into this. I'm going to give you a little more information. I am of the opinion that Tucker Carlson is absolutely a gatekeeper for the bad guys. Absolutely. Owned by intelligence. And I'm going to make that case to you when we come back. Yes, I know he gets 98% of the things right, but the things that matter, he gets devastatingly wrong. And we're going to go back in time, in the time machine to 2020, when Donald Trump really wasn't biting in terms of agreeing to lock down the United States of America. But it was one Tucker Carlson that felt so strongly about lockdowns. He got into his car and drove 2 hours to Mar-a-Lago mid-March to sit down with the president and convince him to lock us down. That's Tucker Carlson, and I will never forget it. You guys know I have a long memory. I have a long memory, and I focus on the things that don't make sense. Now, since then, Tucker Carlson has done a very interesting and admirable job of ingratiating himself into the medical freedom community. But I think it's sabotage. And we come back, we're going to talk about that. I'd love to hear your thoughts on that as well. Keep it tuned here. In just about 18 minutes, we're going to bring Dr. Peter McCullough into the Joy Virtual Studio to talk about the state of medical freedom in the United States of America, but we have a lot to get to before then. So keep it tuned here. We'll be back in a moment right here on the SJ Show. But I do want to talk about parasites. So as you know, there's been a big medical hack of 2025. Everyone's talking about parasites. In fact, my husband, devastatingly handsome Dr. Joy, was recently talking about parasites as well. It's one of those topics that just has not made its way into the mainstream conversation about why we get sick, right? You go to the doctor and it's either a virus or a bacteria or virus, but you never hear a doctor ever saying, well, maybe it's a parasite, right? So there's a lot of emerging research on this. And one of the best thing that's happened in 2025 was several peer-reviewed studies that identified direct connections between anti-parasitic medications having off-label benefits, fighting a variety of cancers. So this makes a lot of sense. The connection between tumor growth and parasites has been known for years. Now, while currently the CDC remains silent, they have admitted, finally, that millions of Americans are suffering from parasitic infections that often go undetected or undiagnosed. This is why Dr. Peter McCullough, Chief Scientific Officer over at the Wellness Company and the world's most published cardiologist, says, quote, these studies make a clear case to do at least one medical grade parasite cleanse every single year. And the TWC parasite cleanse is the real deal. This is not your mother's cleanse. This is not some supplement. This is an amazing product. It is the Wellness Company's proprietary USA compounded ivermectin plus mebendazole. It is a doctor-prescribed gold standard combination dose, and it's designed to help the body eliminate parasites plus a lot of other incredible benefits. Each bottle contains 90 capsules, and it's enough to complete a 21-day cleanse. So the formula cannot be found at your local pharmacy. There's no equivalent out there. But the Wellness Company removes all of that red tape by making the process fully digital. So all you have to do is fill out a quick intake form. A doctor will review the form, and your medical grade parasite cleanse will arrive to you within a week. So this is a once a year cleanse. It is worth every penny, and it's time for people to get healthy and pay attention to the parasites. So head to twc.health/joy right now. twc.health/joy. That is my landing page. If you use the promo code JOY, that's JOY, they're going to take $60 off your parasite cleanse. Plus, they're going to give you free shipping. That is only at twc.health/joy. That is twc.health/joy. Annie has popped up the QR code in the corner of the screen. You can click on that or just hover your phone over it to go right to my site and enjoy a very special gift for the SJ audience, $60 off plus free shipping on every order when you use the JOY promo code. And by the way, use the JOY promo code every time you shop at TWC. If you're already plugged in, you're already using some of their products, make sure you use that JOY code so they know I sent you. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. So WTF, Tucker Carlson, what is going on his website, TCN? As we know, Tucker Carlson, massive platform, likes to pretend he's an independent, right? He got fired from Fox News and now he's out there just like all of us in, independents, critiquing both parties, saying interesting things, 95% of which I agree with. And as you guys know, some of our best people have been featured on Tucker Carlson's platform. People like Naomi Wolf and Catherine Austin Fitz and Peter Schiff and Dr. Mary Talley Bowden, just to name a few. So why is Tucker Carlson on his website pimping COVID fear porn and adopting blatant lies about COVID in general and COVID vaccines? I was absolutely shocked to see an article on his platform, tuckercarlson.com, TCN, with this headline, new COVID variant spreads across America. He says a new COVID variant that may be able to evade protection from current vaccines. All right, so he's adopting a complete fallacy that current vaccines actually protected people from COVID-19. I mean, this is mind-numbingly irritating that we have to now argue this point again, which we've won with Tucker Carlson, who is supposed to be on the side of medical freedom and medical truth, baseline, basic medical truth. But no, amidst the collapse of ACIP, that the agency, I mean, basically HHS saying, you know, it's over. We're not going to get anything for medical freedom. We have now Tucker Carlson mimicking the talking points of the lockdown media regarding COVID. The variant known as BA 3.2 has been detected in nasal swabs taken from 4 American travelers in clinical samples from 5 patients in 4 unidentified states. It has also been found in 132 wastewater samples. So we're going through our sewage and looking for nasty things, which I'm sure they'll find when they sample American sewage, and then turning that into fear porn to justify something, right? They found the samples in more than 20 states, suggesting that its reach is actually far more widespread than what scientists see right now. It first emerged in South Africa, then the Netherlands. Okay, so they're using faulty PCR tests, the nasal swabs, I mean, 2.0. What is going on here, right? And I think what's going on here is that Tucker Carlson is once again exposing himself as a gatekeeper for the bad guys, an agent, owned by intelligence. His dad worked for the CIA. And what he does is ingratiates himself into our movement by inviting our people into his massive platform. And that platform was curated and built for him, given to him, in exchange for him continuing to control narratives and deceive his population of viewers, right? So he'll invite our people in and, you know, present some of the truths, but never all of the truths. But at the end of the day, he will always, always, always revert back to his pre-approved messaging, which is 2-party political alignment and omission of the truth, very important truths, also lies by commission as well. So 95% true, 2% lies by omission, and 3% like big fat whoppers of lies, like what he did with the Tate brothers, right? And we know this. We should never forget, even though Tucker has rehabilitated his image as a freedom-fighting warrior and very friendly to medical freedom advocates, he was the guy who convinced Trump to lock us down. And I want to go back in time to remind all of you, lest you consider trusting Tucker Carlson again to say anything. By the way, I agree with what he's saying about the war in Iran. I agree with what he's saying about about what's going on with Israel. There are a lot of things that I agree with Tucker on. He's critiquing this president, the president of the United States right now, which I agree on. That doesn't mean I trust him. That doesn't mean that I don't know what his angles are. Because this is what he did in March of 2020, March 18th. This was reported by the AP, and most people do not know this. They don't remember this about Tucker Carlson. But reported by the AP and acknowledged by Tucker Carlson, Fox News Channel's Tucker Carlson said he felt a moral obligation to meet with President Trump and warn him personally about the seriousness of the coronavirus pandemic. Tucker Carlson told Vanity Fair, "I didn't feel it was my role, but was convinced by his wife, okay, to meet with Trump at Mar-a-Lago on March 7th of 2020. 2 nights later on his Fox News show, he issued a pointed warning to viewers to prepare for the coming storm. It speaks to both Fox News' influence with the president and his supporters that a cable news host was able to contact the White House and successfully request a 2-hour meeting. Tucker Carlson got into his car, drove to the president's resort from his Florida home. Ironically, on the same day, some guests at Mar-a-Lago were exposed to the virus." So Tucker Carlson was complicit and highly influential in getting Trump to pull the trigger on lockdowns in 2020. So important was this message that Tucker Carlson had to deliver to his audience and also the president, that he got into his car and drove hours to meet with the president face to face. This is the definition of a con man, a con artist, a confidence artist, someone who gains your confidence by telling the truth, the obvious truth, 95% of the time. But in the small percent of the time, 4 or 5% of the time, when it really matters, when it's all that matters, he tells the ultimate lies. And he lied to his audience blatantly, delivering the fear porn and the fear mongering. And I don't think we should ever forget about that, ever. So shame on you, Tucker, for running the fear porn for COVID again and adopting the lies of the Biden administration and the Trump administration and Anthony Fauci and all of the lockdowners of 2020 and 2021. And this is why there is no justice. There is no justice for the victims of lockdowns, those who were murdered in hospitals and in nursing homes, those who were murdered by poison COVID shots with no justice, and people who are continuing to be injured by these shots. It is the fault of people like Tucker Carlson who continue to peddle this. And I'm not going to let him get away with it. So isn't that crazy? On the same day, I agree with AOC on the floor of the United States House of Representatives and disagree with Tucker Carlson, who is supposed to be a medical freedom advocate, but is now adopting the fear porn language of 2020 about new COVID variants. Just not okay. And this is why, you know, all of it, the betrayals all the way down from absolutely no movement in terms of justice for those who were injured during and killed during the lockdowns of 2020 and beyond, but also, you know, the very, very unpopular war. I mentioned 8 million people turned out yesterday, 8 million in the United States to protest President Trump. We're seeing a Maha exodus, a MAGA exodus. This is Bruce Fenton. This was from Interactive Polls, national poll by UMass and Amherst. I mentioned it at the beginning of the show. President Trump's approval has now plummeted to 33%. Disapproval rates at 62%. And his net approval has gone down on these key issues: immigration, jobs, tariffs, and inflation. Negative 47% on inflation. This is all going to come down to the economy. This is all going to come down to the economy. And our actions in the Middle East are really putting the pressure and really putting in place quasi-lockdowns. We're seeing lockdown rhetoric across the globe because of the energy shock stemming from Trump's highly, highly unpopular war. And this on U.S. military action against Iran, approval rate is 29%, disapprove 54%. This is from YouGov poll. And so this is why we're seeing the exodus. This was Bruce Fenton from Twitter. I have 2 examples here. And then we're going to go to break and bring Dr. Peter McCullough in just a moment. Cannot wait to talk to Dr. McCullough. One very rare example of truth out there and doing just an amazing job with his foundation and all of the information that he is putting out about health truths. But this is what Bruce Fenton had to say regarding Trump. I'm a Republican. I supported Trump. I raised money for him. I voted for him. I donated $60,000 to his campaign. He pushed this out publicly on Twitter just yesterday. No, today, this morning. He said, Trump lied. He rug pulled all of us. I didn't vote for Lindsey Graham and America Second policies. You can disagree with me if you want. It's your right to be fooled. But if you say I have TDS or am a liberal, you need a new argument. There are millions of conservatives and members of the now torched broad coalition just like me. And the only ones left supporting him are MAGA always Trumpers who place one man above the policies and the health of our own country. And that was from Bruce Fenton. And he produced proof of his $60,000 contribution to the Trump campaign. So if these type of supporters are in exodus, you can only imagine how bad it is for this president, but he's being completely tone deaf. There's a Maha exodus as well. Brad Skissimus, a very well-known, 5 times August, very well-known medical freedom advocate, pushed this out just a couple hours ago. He said, if it was going to be different, you would have seen it right out of the gate on January 20th. They would not have let an entire year go by and then all of the sudden promise you that at midterms, no, guys, it's actually going to be the SAVE Act that is going to fix everything. Trust us. 12-dimensional chess. Brad said this, you have to recognize that the carrot is always going to be dangled, leading you to the next thing that will make it all okay. This administration was handed everything on a silver platter, and they have either squandered it out of sheer incompetence and stupidity or never actually intended to make the change they promised in the first place. And we're seeing some of this with the crack up over at ASIP, which we'll ask Peter McCullough about when we get back with him, because a lot of anger coming from the medical freedom community and Maha over what is perceived as a complete lack of progress in terms of truth about COVID, the lockdowns, the shots, and even what we're seeing today. He said, but 1 year in, you would have seen signs by now. You would have felt the difference. The tone would be exciting and refreshing, not divisive and uncertain. And I agree with Brad Skissimus on that. So Maha's angry, MAGA's angry. The Democrats are obviously angry. We have a big problem here. When we come back, we're going to bring in Dr. Peter McCullough for the final half hour of the SJ show. We're going to go to a quick commercial break. And we are going to talk to him about the status of medical freedom and truth about what happened in 2020. Have we made any progress? And then I also want to ask him about ivermectin. I'm seeing more and more on ivermectin. The studies are amazing. I have my own anecdotal experience with the wellness company and ivermectin cream that I'm using now. And it's a miracle. It's a miracle. And I want to get Dr. McCullough's thoughts on, where we can go towards healing. What is he seeing? What are they looking at in terms of healing from the spike, healing from COVID vaccine injury, and where do we need to go now as a movement in the next 2 years as we continue to fight for justice? We shouldn't give up, even though it's hard. And we're going to talk to Dr. Peter McCullough about that in just a moment when we come back on the Shannon Joy Show. So keep it tuned right here. Hey everyone, I am so proud to recommend Schiff Gold to this audience as the gold standard for metals purchasing and investing. I couldn't ask for a better partner to help people understand gold and silver and use them as strategic instruments to protect their family's financial future. Peter Schiff's teaching on markets has shaped my understanding of how economies grow and why they collapse. And I've used them as a critical source for my daily broadcast for over 10 years. The Shannon Joy Show audience already knows and loves Peter because he has been such a treasured educator over the years. He is now the preeminent source for rock-solid financial analysis around the world. And this is because he understands the immutable laws of natural markets and his stalwart unwillingness to veer from absolute truths regardless of economic fads and political pressures. Bottom line, he doesn't sell out. And that means a lot to me. I trust Schiff Gold, and you can too. Go to schiffgold.com/joy today to get started. You'll find some of the lowest spot prices for gold and silver and critical information on protecting your retirement savings with a gold or silver IRA. That's www.schiffgold.com/joy. Hedge against the chaos with our friends over at Schiff Gold. At 123.com/joy. Everything that you're going to need for preparation: generators, solar panels, Faraday products. If you want to disappear and protect yourself from the surveillance state, they have an entire line of amazing Faraday products called dark bags. They're always 10% off at the satellite phone store if you go to sat123.com/joy. That is sat123.com/joy. The satellite phone store has supported the Shannon Joy Show for many years. They are amazing partners, and let's help the companies that help keep the lights on here at the Shannon Joy Show. So if you are in the market for any of their products or services, make sure you use that promo code JOY and go to sat123.com/joy. That's sat123.com/joy. Welcome back, everyone, to the Shannon Joy Show. So glad to welcome once again into the Joy Virtual Studio one of my absolute all-time favorites. Dr. Peter McCullough is with us today on March 30th. It's been way too long since I've talked to you, Dr. McCullough, and you've really been making the rounds. I mean, you have been putting out just so many great studies, so much great information through the McCullough Foundation. Nicholas Hulcher is an absolute gem. I had him on my show last week for the first time, and it's just amazing what he's putting out. Can't wait to get John Leake on again. He's been on fire. And, you know, this is all around you and your foundation. You've been going on a lot of different shows, bringing the truth, sticking to the truth about what was done to us during 2020 and not taking any prisoners. How are you doing? Thanks for coming back in, and it's great to see you.
Well, it's great to be back on the show. You know, for the McCullough Foundation leads our not-for-profit aspects of public policy and research. Of course, the Wellness Company is the brightest corporate development coming out of the pandemic. Now a global healthcare company.
Yep.
You know, every month is better at the Wellness Company. We now are going to be opening up a Texas office. Actually, in fact, have the office, have employees there.
That's
so I'm
amazing.
in the McCullough studio now, which is going to change its offices shortly. So things are going really well. But I have to tell you, I agree with your monologue statements about people being disappointed with the Make America Healthy Again movement, where it's gone wrong. And in many ways, a Wellness Company is delivering where, you know, our government agencies are not.
It's so true. And people aren't just disappointed, Dr. McCullough. People are enraged that babies are still being injected with COVID-19 shots. Pregnant mothers are still being injected with COVID-19 shots. There are hundreds of mRNA technologies in the hopper to be rolled out by this HHS. We've seen the meltdown at ACIP, the disbanding of that committee, which was supposed to be the magical committee, where we would go in and change the childhood schedule, bring truth. We were supposed to have a real frank discussion about vaccines and their mechanisms of harm, adverse events in the vaccine injured, which has never happened. And that fell apart. We have now Dr. Robert Malone stepping down, saying that there was sabotage at ACIP and all of the things. And it's just, people are enraged and they're angry at Bobby Kennedy. And I'm just reiterating what I'm seeing from the MAHA community and medical freedom. I would love to get your thoughts on what have we accomplished? What were the mistakes of HHS? Because it looks as if at this point, and I had some inside information, I had someone call me and let me know Bobby Kennedy Jr. called them and basically said it's over. You get nothing. You get nothing. And that should make people angry. What are your thoughts on that?
Well, if we go back to 2020, I think RFK joining forces with Trump actually helped Trump win the election.
Yeah.
There's no doubt about it. And people cheered, and I cheered as well. But I was concerned about Robert F. Kennedy Jr. You know, he's never held a major leadership role. He's not a doctor, and this was a time we really needed a doctor with major leadership, capabilities to lead HHS. And, I said from the very beginning, boy, he better bring groups of people into Washington, the major medical societies, the chiefs of medicine at major medical centers, and he better start holding some group meetings to review the COVID-19 pandemic, lessons learned, COVID-19 vaccine safety, childhood vaccine safety issues. Start to get all the data viewed by, individuals in these academic institutions so they could understand where the concerns are. But that never happened. Remember, leadership is about, bringing people together because you're a leader, and then identifying issues, framing them, and then, driving a consensus on what to do in public policy, and then enacting that, making it happen.
Right.
But he never did any of that.
Yeah.
So, as things move forward, everything that happened was always done kind of a small group of advisors. Seemed like it didn't have much at all of a consensus in the medical orthodoxy. And what happened is the major associations said enough is enough. So, Association of American Physicians and Surgeons, American College of Physicians, they essentially were shut out of all these decisions. And like anything else, there would have to be some discussion, negotiation on vaccine reform. And they went to a liberal judge. They had a case, and they prevailed. So essentially everything that ACIP done. Now, the committee didn't do much.
They didn't.
Advisory Committee on Immunization Practices, remember their very first meeting, all they did was rubber stamp the prior schedule.
Yep, I do remember that.
Then they spent, months and months, deliberating over, babies getting the hepatitis B vaccine on the first day of life, and suggested it could be, put off for a while. And then I think there was some frustration because they never picked up on reforming the entire schedule. So then Trump, with Jim O'Neill, the acting director of the CDC at that time, just rewrote the schedule and said, make it like Denmark. And that happened. And that, in a sense, went around the ACIP panel. And I think that's when AAP and ACP jumped in. So I think if we would have had effective leadership, we would have had numerous meetings in Washington. Everyone would have seen what was coming. We would have had all the discussions out on the table. The ACIP panel, I think, should have had really heavy-hitting doctors, doctors with many hundreds of publications who can hold their own in discussions. And there were some very good clinicians on the panel. I think the clinicians, the practicing doctors, were fine. But the ones that weren't doctors, they weren't seeing patients, and they weren't heavyweight academics, the committee was unconvincing, and now they're disbanded. So here we are. It's actually kind of worse than we started. Yeah.
Well, and as someone who is, I've been in marketing, messaging, public relations, PR for 25 years. It is not lost on me. I mean, this looked like a sophisticated operation to me to appear to be doing something with no intention of ever really doing it. I think my opinion was that Bobby Kennedy could not have joined with the Trump administration and also kept his positions and his views on vaccines, because vaccines are a third rail. Trump loves vaccines. Trump loves the COVID vaccine. Trump loves the pharmaceutical money that pours in to put him into office. And so there was no way. I knew this from the beginning. I knew this in the summer of 2024, when Bobby gave his speech and omitted the word vaccine, announcing that he was going to join the Trump administration. Mm-hmm. And that's a big deal because, this is what you've said recently. And you're absolutely right about this. We have to address vaccine injury and death. Recently you said that I'm the senior most, and this was on Del Bigtree, I'm the senior most opinion on this topic right now in the nation, and the childhood vaccine schedule should be suspended immediately. You have spoken to studies now about MMR. We analyzed how many babies died after the MMR vaccine since the 1990s. Mm-hmm. There are over 100 kids, maybe 200 kids died. And so more children dying from adverse reaction to an MMR than from the disease itself. And as I mentioned, we're still injecting babies with COVID-19 shots, and they're still expanding the schedule and all the things. You're the only voice out there. This is important.
Well, wait, look at what we've done on the side of the McCullough Foundation. So we've published the most definitive analysis on the risk factors for autism, concluding that combination vaccines in susceptible children are a trigger for the development of autism spectrum disorder. Now, that's gone fully through peer-reviewed publication. We're going to announce shortly that it's going to be published in its entirety in a peer-reviewed journal. We've published the definitive analysis on the risks and benefits of measles vaccination, including, sadly, children who die after measles vaccination. It's not completely benign. So McCullough Foundation is doing more than the entire CDC on this, which has,
Wow.
a $9 billion budget, 12,000 employees, lots of MDs and PhDs and master's level people. We're doing more than HHS has done on these issues in terms of moving the needle. And on the wellness company side, that we're offering so many new innovative solutions for these problems. The Robert F. Kennedy, the HHS, they have still yet to focus on the spike protein,
Right.
which is accumulating people after SARS-CoV-2 infection and after vaccination.
Mm-hmm. It's insane. And no discussions. I mean, I did want to talk to you about ivermectin too, because all of the work on ivermectin and looking at the mechanisms of healing and that compound, its uses outside of even COVID-19, it's incredible. It's stunning, but we're not hearing, they're not even making positive steps towards making it easier to get ivermectin or making it over the counter or or even alerting people to the fact that these studies exist. I mean, this was an area I really wanted to dial in with you today. And I want to just say this. Wellness Company is amazing. I was able to travel down to Florida about a month ago for February break, Dr. McCullough, and I was able to sit down for breakfast with Peter Galuli. And we had such a great meeting. I think we were there for about an hour and a half. And, I've met Foster. I mean, I have really taken my time to meet a lot of the primaries with TWC. They're doing amazing work as a private company, right? Doing, so much of the work that we're not seeing in the medical industrial complex. And so I just wanted to reiterate and back up what you said. They're healing people and it's amazing. And it's what we need. It's a shame that we can't get this from our own government, but at least we're building up parallel organizations that are doing the heavy lifting and the work. And the McCullough Foundation is doing that as well.
Yeah, it's been such a great professional privilege to help found the Wellness Company in 2022. I'm the chief scientific officer. And it's clear to me that if there's another disaster that hits the United States in healthcare, the government is not going to be looked to at all for solutions. I mean, we have BARDA is supposed to be doing pandemic response. They actually helped create SARS-CoV-2 pandemic. They didn't do anything to respond to it. Same thing with DARPA and the military. They're just cooking up more disasters in this whole genetic technology and immunization area. And they're offering no therapeutic solutions at all. Yeah. So Wellness Company, we certainly have a whole array of emergency medical kits. We have our own pharmacies. We have the entire care management division now that's managing our senior citizens and keeping them out of the hospital. And of course, our doctors who are responding to patients, then the innovative products. And so at this point in time, I think the answer is when it comes to healthcare, I think everybody knew this, don't look to the government.
Right.
You shouldn't be looking to Alex Azar or Xavier Becerra or Robert F. Kennedy to be solving anything. They never have solved anything.
Right. Well, and that was my message before the election. In general, I agree with you. I don't think that the answers are in Washington, D.C. I think that's becoming very clear to just about everyone, Democrat and Republican, when it comes to finances, energy, domestic policy, foreign policy, health policy. We're watching in real time just the crashing and burning. I think that it's just so laden and so corrupt. And people do need to emancipate and spend less time worrying about who the next president is going to be and more time building up their parallel institutions, getting aligned with organizations like yours and beginning to take control of their own health, finances, wellness, et cetera. So I agree with you 100%.
Oh, and you know what? I think on vaccine freedom, what I'm seeing, since we're right back to the old vaccine schedule, I think all the tension points have to do with the places where people live and they can't get exemptions for their children. I think that's where all the tension is. And you know what actually solved that in many ways was Klaus Schwab's Great Reset. And which he said, listen, everyone's going to work from home and with COVID, and they are.
Yeah.
And so now people are far more mobile to move to different states. Like in Texas, we have medical, religious, and philosophical exemptions. You take a form, you fill it out, you get it notarized. and your kids go to public school, they don't need to take vaccines. We actually have banned COVID-19 vaccine mandates because the vaccines are so dangerous, as we did in Texas, and Florida is similar. So I think what's going to happen now, where this whole area is going to things, initiatives at the state level, support of organizations. So my wife and I generously support Texans for Vaccine Choice.
Great.
And the other groups there that have really moved the needle, and that people will exert essentially their input on public policy by their own choices. And a very important paper was published in JAMA by Vesuvian and colleagues, demonstrating that 60% of young parents now are not going to follow the routine childhood vaccine schedule.
That's amazing.
60.
Wow. That's a huge report. And that's the culture at work. That's the tsunami, right? Once you lose the culture and the people lose trust in their institutions, you cannot put that genie back in the bottle. And that's insane that was a JAMA report. 60% of young parents. Man, that's amazing.
Well, parents have, they talk to one another, and they realize, why are there so many hearings on vaccines? Why are there so many social media posts on vaccines? What are people really worried about?
Yeah.
And this linkage to autism now. And I've seen some posts where they said, well, I'd rather have my kid become autistic than die from measles. And we see these insane posts. And I can tell you, as a medical doctor, we had a measles outbreak in West Texas. No one should die of measles. Right. And the public health messaging shouldn't be get a measles vaccine. The messaging should be, get early treatment for measles in high-risk cases. We have vitamin A protocols. We have antibodies against measles for close contacts. We have steroids for measles encephalitis and pneumonitis, and then, of course, secondary antibiotics. With modern care, no one should die of measles. We're going to have a blending of natural and vaccine immunity. But, on social media, you can see how insane this is. We posted on Substack, I think in January, we were at about 800 measles cases. Do you know how many news articles those 800 cases generated? They generated 40,000 news articles for 800 cases, and most of the news articles were encouraging vaccination. We saw the same thing with a meningitis outbreak in the UK, about 20 confirmed cases generating thousands and thousands of news articles. The main message was, take a vaccine.
Right.
Well, what's saving the day in the UK? Remember the meningitis B vaccine would take 6 weeks before it has an effect. Right. What made the outbreak go away is actually prophylactic ciprofloxacin, which sterilizes the nose and mouth of the meningococcus. So the hero was Cipro. We have that in one of our wellness company. Our green travel kit contains Cipro, just a single dose. So what we're seeing is a failure of this co-opting of public health messaging for a single solution, a vaccine. And people are starting to see the reality of medical therapy, prophylaxis, and natural immunity.
Well, this is why Tucker Carlson is on my naughty list today, Dr. McCullough, because on his website, my inbox gets flooded, and I start getting direct messages from people when they see the ramping up of the fear porn, right? So in the US, there is this new COVID variant that everyone is talking about. To your point, the measles story is getting all of this coverage. Tucker Carlson put on his own website, new COVID variant spreads across America, a new COVID variant that may be able to evade protection from current vaccines is spreading across America, which adopts the fallacy that the COVID shots ever protected people against COVID. It's like embracing the lie. And I'm sure maybe it was a low-level person.
Well, Shannon, hang on a second. I know Tucker, I've been on his show.
I know.
And we covered this on Focal Points yesterday, I believe. Yeah. But the new variant, its name is cicada. Do you know what a cicada is?
A grasshopper?
A cicada is a giant bug, and it if you ever lived in Kansas City or St. Louis, oh my gosh, they make so much noise you can barely hear yourself in the summertime.
They do.
And it means rebirth. So cicada in many ways is a rebirth, and the piece is correct. it is resistant to vaccination, but vaccination actually caused it because the vaccines are not sterilizing. The virus keeps mutating until it gets to an optimal strain that can survive among the vaccinated.
Crazy.
And so as we covered it in focal points, of course, the vaccinated, 81% of Americans are vaccinated. They're going to contract this. It's a very mild syndrome. It's like a common cold. But it's just, we have a 6-year pandemic. Is this going to be a 10-year pandemic prolonged by vaccination?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes. That's I think that's the key. This is if you were very diabolical and a very, very evil business person, you would look at that as a great business plan. Okay. Like scare people about a super scary virus, then inject them with poison. Then the poison makes them sicker, then sell them the next injection that poisons them even more.
Remember, it's vaccine marketing. So now these stories come out around this time through the summer. Remember last year, it was razor blade sore throat. Remember that one? So this summer it's cicada. So when we hear the bugs, outside at night in the Midwest, we're going to be, it's almost as if the vaccine cartel comes up with an annual marketing campaign. And what a completely nonsensical situation we're in. Even if the vaccines have theoretical efficacy, it only lasts for a couple months. Right. So how would you have an annual campaign for a couple months of protection for an illness that's not seasonal? The whole thing is madness. Again, I think if we had strong leaders in Washington, the COVID vaccines would have been off the market. We would have rescinded the 1986 Vaccine Injury Compensation Act. We would have suspended the vaccine schedule and just allowed personal choice, get direct consumer advertising off the market, start to really, really drop our costs. And this could have all been done with a series of rapid fire meetings, calling leaders into Washington and saying, listen, there's a new sheriff in town, things are changing. Right. But instead, we see our leaders on podcasts. We don't need them on podcasts. They need to be in their offices doing the work of government public servants.
Yeah. The only thing I would add to that, Dr. McCullough, would be erasing pharmaceutical liability protection. So going back into those, the bills that were passed in the 1990s and the emergency declaration, which is still in place, by the way. The emergency declaration that was deployed to justify the rollout of the countermeasures, which was a military operation, still in place. Robert Kennedy Jr. could have erased that with a signature, and he chose not to do so. And so that's, and that gives the pharmaceutical companies and practitioners an enormous amount of liability protection. So, they can essentially do anything they want to the human body, including inject it, and enjoy complete liability protection because it's a military operation and they have that coverage. It was the PrEP Act. But I agree with you. There were certain things that needed to happen and they did not. I would say, just from my perspective, the tenure of Robert Kennedy at HHS has been an abysmal failure. And I think we're going to continue to see more failures. And it's not because I don't like him. I'm just assessing, where we are.
Listen, I think, honestly, he's been about as effective as Alex Azar or Xavier Becerra. The HHS secretary is not a major driver. We've had an FDA commissioner who's done nothing. We haven't even had a permanent CDC director. Now, doesn't that tell you something? We haven't had, we're going to come up on a year and a half of this administration. We don't have a permanent director of the CDC, a $9 billion organization, 12,000 employees, rudderless. And, here we are a year and a half, and we don't have that important, very senior, respected physician in the office of the Surgeon General. And so, these are indices. These are objective indices that we don't have good healthcare leadership in Washington.
Right. Well, we're going to continue to fight for justice, and we're going to continue to fight for truth, regardless of what they do in Washington, D.C. You're doing the heavy lifting over at the McCullough Foundation, our friends at TWC. By the way, Wellness Company is a sponsor of the Shannon Joy Show. So thankful for their sponsorship. And you guys, anything that is discussed, from the emergency kits to ivermectin to any of the products that to deal with spike poisoning, all of it is available at twc.health/joy. That's TWC health/joy, and make sure you always, always, always use the JOY promo code, because you'll get discounts, specials, free shipping. And they, again, I use so many of their products, and that's where I kind of wanted to end today, Dr. McCullough. We should, I mean, I don't know if you have a little extra time, if we could maybe have another 5 or 6 or 7 minutes. I would love to talk about ivermectin, because I've been looking into it in more detail recently, especially the mechanisms that are looking really good for cancers. Some of the turbo cancers we've seen post COVID shot have been devastating, and it's in my life. I'm seeing it everywhere. I have a very brief little anecdote about the ivermectin cream that you sell over at TWC. And I've been using it for rosacea. I'm like perimenopausal. So I'm going through the change, and it's not fun. But anyway, I'm getting like rosacea in through my cheeks and my nose. And it's been really frustrating. So I got some of the TWC ivermectin cream, and I began using it. It started working immediately, literally on the first day. I saw improvement. I've now been using it for a couple of weeks, and it's gone, totally gone, cleared up all of the rosacea.
Your skin looks beautiful, and you certainly want to get ahead of it. Remember, rosacea can ultimately make the nose get kind of red and bumpy.
Yes.
And with the cystic acne, and by the way, ivermectin, metronidazole in that combination, they're FDA approved for these indications. This isn't controversial to use it.
Right.
Now, for ivermectin mebendazole, which is oral, that's our fixed dose combination. Wellness Company is going to announce results of a major study soon. And all I can tell you is it's strongly positive for people using this as an adjunct in treating cancer. So people have gone through chemo, radiation, surgery, and they're looking for something else. They've gone to the Wellness Company, large numbers of them. We've kept track of the results. And I think people are going to be very pleased. Yeah. So these are the types of things. Our National Cancer Institute should be doing this.
It's crazy.
But instead, our government's doing nothing. Wellness Company, we're stepping in and we're delivering.
What are the mechanisms of healing from the research that you've looked at? What are some of the best research that you've seen in terms of ivermectin plus, mebendazole, fembendazole, those combinations in treating cancers? What are you seeing in terms of the clearest mechanisms of healing there?
Well, it appears that certain cancers are responsive. Now, of those two drugs, ivermectin and mebendazole is farther ahead. I mean, there's already prospective randomized trials. And people are encouraged because both drugs cross the blood-brain barrier, and a lot of cancers in the brain are difficult to treat. But I'd say in general, solid organ cancers, so lung, kidneys, breast, those are adrenal, those are encouraging as opposed to the hematological illnesses like leukemia and lymphoma. That both drugs work on reducing a variety of internal cell factors that drive proliferation of cells. And because both drugs have multiple mechanisms of action, they can actually begin to short circuit the neoplastic changes that happen in cells. And by the way, chemotherapy, a lot of chemotherapy agents have kind of these natural origins and have including Taxol and vincristine, vinblastine, and others. They're from nature anyway. Ivermectin is a natural product from the soil in Japan. And it is, in a sense, serendipitous. Now there are registered large clinical trials being done of ivermectin by academic medical centers as adjunct to cancer. And of course, at a wellness company, people do have to go through a doctor at the wellness company, get ivermectin and mebendazole combination, and then we keep track of that. It's marketed on label to treat, what's called neglected parasitic infections, but people are using it off label to treat cancer.
Unbelievable. What about prophylactically? Do you know of people using ivermectin who are in remission or want to, or maybe cancers run in their families? And is there a preventative mechanism that you've seen yet?
Not for ivermectin and mebendazole, but what people are using is Shield. Shield is our product of taking 3 capsules a day plus a drink. It's like a cocoa drink, and you do it preventively for cancer and people in remission. Dr. Kelly Victory is the person who designed it. It's about a dozen anti-cancer botanicals. These are both medicinary and culinary, but they're in forms of capsules. So I recommend all my patients, listen, play it safe, get Shield. You want to leverage the power of nature to prevent the cancer from coming back, or in high-risk cases, people just go on it to prevent cancer to begin with.
Right. What about fasting for preventative measures in cancers? I've taken up fasting on a regular basis. I try to fast for 72 hours, at least twice a year. And I'll do that. I'll do it if I can. I try 4 times a year. Like sometimes I'll get a day into it and then my willpower breaks down. I can't, but usually I can manage to get at least 2 good fasts per year. What are your thoughts on fasting?
Should be studied by the National Cancer Institute. You know, all the mechanistic data are positive. My wife's such a great cook. I know you know my wife, and
she's amazing.
And we rarely go hardly a few hours without eating. And we've actually decided we want to do some fasting as well because of the health benefits of doing it. And you know, none of us are overweight,
right?
But you know, it's probably no secret why every religion in the world just about has fasting as part of its rituals.
Yeah. Right. And the autophagy is it's like the cell cleaning, essentially. Like you go into fight or flight because your body is saying, uh-oh, you don't have any nutrients coming in. We got to get rid of all the bad stuff and get prepared for battle. And so, you know, I've read about it really like it just, you know, cleans out your cells, precancerous cells. And it's just a miracle worker. It's crazy.
You know, Kelly Victory, who's on our board at the wellness company, you're going to be shocked with this. She does 5 days a month.
No way. That's hard.
But listen, she's fighting cancer herself. She has breast cancer. And so can you imagine 5 days a month? I can barely go 5 hours.
I know. I have Dr. Kelly Victory is coming on mid-month. So I have
you have
lined
to
up.
ask her about this.
I certainly will. We'll have a long discussion on cancer. So anything else that you think is important before we wrap up here?
I have to mention more and more data with the ultimate spike detox. Remember, all the people who have, you know, accumulated the SARS-CoV-2 spike protein from recurrent episodes of COVID and from taking the vaccines, the human body can't get rid of the spike protein. The only science-backed, you know, evidence-based, peer-reviewed and published approach is the ultimate spike detox combination of high-dose nattokinase, bromelain, and curcumin, and 4 minor ingredients. Most people need to be on this for a year or more. Measure the spike protein antibodies, go to LabCorp, Labs on Demand, infectious diseases, order it yourself, get a spike antibody test. You should do this, Sharon. You and your husband should do this. Know your number. And if you're over 1,000 units per ml, get on the spike detox.
It's amazing. And I'm seeing, you know, more and more people, I think the shedding thing is real. And I think that we are seeing trace amounts of the spike in people who never ever took the COVID shots, which is like not good. So I will do it. Spike detox, of course, everything. If you are going to shop at the wellness company, guys, do me a huge favor. Make sure that you use my landing page, twc.health/joy. That is twc.health/joy. And always use the JOY promo code for any of the products that we've talked about. Dr. Peter McCullough, it's gone by too quickly. I'm going to have to get you in for an hour next time because there are so many questions flooding in right now on the chats, and it would be fun to do a little Q&A at some point. But hey, keep up the great work. Thank you for everything that you're doing. Tell Maha I said hello. Your beautiful wife, not the health organization. Your wife. And how can people support you and support McCullough Foundation, real quick?
Well, go to McCulloughFND.org. That's your not-for-profit tax-free donation supporting our work, and particularly our critical work in Washington. Go to www.thefocalpoints.com. Sign up for our free Focal Points newsletter. Every day you get the critical medical updates. And, of course, McCullough Report on America Out Loud News, McCullough Report.
Amazing. All right. Keep up that great work. We'll see you soon.
Thank you.
All right. And thank you all for being with us today on the Shannon Joy Show. Thank you to Annie for beautifully producing the SJ Show. And of course, Dr. Peter McCullough, always a favored guest on this show, and our sponsors over at the Wellness Company. We really enjoy working with them. And the ivermectin cream, guys, I'm going to be telling you, it's amazing. I'm kind of blown away by what a great product that is. I would say anyone out there, if you have kids who are struggling with cystic acne, hormonal acne. We struggled with my son, my oldest son, for years. I wish this product would have been around when he was in high school, but he had a couple bad years there. Rosacea, all of the things. I've never had a product work so well, ever. So I cannot sing the praises enough of the ivermectin cream. And again, it's always on discount with the promo code JOY. So you guys have a wonderful day. We're going to be back tomorrow with all of the headlines, all of the news, more great guests. Make sure you support the Shannon Joy Show by going to my website, theshannonjoy.com. That's theshannonjoy.com. Right now, sign up for the daily e-newsletter. It is my direct connection to you. It is my list, and we send you an email every day with all of the topics of the day, the show headlines, show notes, and all of the sources that I've used for my show. That comes one time a day, and it helps me stay connected to all of you. So make sure you sign up. And you can also donate to the Shannon Joy Show and become an angel investor. So many of you are contributing $5 a month, $10 a month, and I so appreciate that. In fact, one of you, I wish I could see, where is that? Silver Country. Thank you so much, right here on the Rumble chat with a $5 donation today. Through Locals, Silver Country, thank you so much. I'm seeing more of those right on the Rumble chat as well. So we are independent. You know, the show is independent and not plugged in to the mainstream news media pipelines. So we have to do it the hard way. And that is often with support from my generous audience. So thank you to those of you who do support the show at theshannonjoy.com. And for those of you who contribute on the live chat with donations and gifting subscriptions and also through Locals, I so appreciate you as well. So that is it. We will be back tomorrow to do it all again right here on the Shannon Joy Show.